Hi, my name is Malisande, and this is my wall, and I've been thinking lately that it would be a really good idea for me to upload a video, kind of like a YouTube video, about certain subjects that really interest me. And one of my favorite subjects is Asperger's syndrome because before I knew I had it, I got my mom diagnosed. I identified her, and it saved her from tremendous heartache over a lot of misdiagnoses, and she finally was diagnosed and lived a much more comfortable life knowing who she was and why she was the way she was. I'm very fond of people who have Asperger's and autism because it's not a sickness, it's not something you can be cured from. There's a lot of ignorances surrounding it, especially the words functional, which is a word I can hardly stand because functional really just means being able to mimic another type of person's behaviors, and left-handed people can mimic right-handed people by cutting with their right hand. It doesn't make them right-handed, and that's exactly the difference between a person with autism or Asperger's and a person who has typical traits. There's a lot of things that people with typical traits can't do that Asperger's people can do extremely well. We're talking Einstein and many, many others, even actors, Dan Aykroyd, and the list goes on of people, Dustin Hoffman, who make this world better because they have Asperger's. And ordinary people are, doing good things too because they have a different trait, a different way of going about what they do and how they do it. And so I just have a particular fondness for people with Asperger's. I have the ability to see the facial features of some people who have it and identify them that way. Others I can tell by mannerisms and things like that, and they're so endearing because they have this innocent quality. They're extremely honest and not easy to get along with all the time, but they have a lovableness that is very childlike, and I have to use that word again, innocent. They're so beautiful. Their facial features are extremely beautiful. The features that I'm able to see, I can see them better in masculine features than in feminine features because the masculine are more pronounced. The men have, they tend to have like a little line right here. They have a turned up chin, very nice lips most of the time. They'll have deep set eyes, which is typical of male Asperger traits, and women can have them too. They have a certain eyebrow shape, and they can also have a raised eyebrow with a little bit more of a, I want to use the word elfish look, but it's not really elfish, it's just that their eyes are almond but turned up at the corner. The females have a slanted jaw line and a little bit more of a triangular shape to their face, and they do have trouble sometimes looking or keeping eye contact, but that is a tremendous ignorance to go by that because I can keep eye contact. My mother was diagnosed and she can keep extreme eye contact. Some of that is learned by our culture when our parents say you have to look your parents in the eyes, and it comes from previous generations where that was considered rude or disrespectful not to look your parents in the eyes, and it was forced on children who had Asperger's, and they learned it because the consequences were harsh if they didn't. And I can speak for myself that I had harsh consequences as a child for not displaying signs of respect or social cues properly, but my mother didn't really understand those social things. They were just rules to her, and she taught them to me as rules, and I learned them as rules because they weren't a part of my true trait either. Asperger's can tend to have a short, not a temper, but a ability to control their frustration. They become frustrated because they have high expectations and really think that things should work properly the first time, and and that can sometimes be a struggle for us to work on. And a lot of times I can say in my youth I didn't have the ability to be functional. I hate that word. And I said things that were out of tact or inappropriate for the situation, the setting, for the confidence level that was kept amongst the group, and kind of outcast for that. And I didn't really know why or what was wrong, and I little by little began comparing what other people do, what looked normal, what was considered normal, what wasn't teased, what was accepted, and I really did robotically mimic those traits to prevent myself from having to go through the social disassociation that people inflict on people who have Asperger's. One of the other traits that I can identify, especially in children, it's less prominent in adults, is a paddle-like speech pattern. I can tell in some of my video that I still have some of that. And what goes along with that speech pattern is a high and low emotional projection, which is, I love bees, I hate bears, and then they'll turn around and say, I love bees, or I hate bees, I love bears. It'll just flip, and they'll be completely the opposite on the same subject. It's black and white, it's high and low, the grays are they're very much not a part of Asperger life, and we tend not to be able to manage time and money very well, but we struggle 3-4 times harder than the average person to learn those skills and manage them properly. But give us a computer or some scientific project, a collection, an idea. We're extremely opinionated, and we push society very far in its advances because of the things that we can do and contribute. So we are valuable, and we have a real position in the world that can't be denied, and we shouldn't be looked at. I don't even like the word syndrome. It sounds like Down syndrome, and this is a genetic trait. It's not a genetic defect. People with autism can be brought around to a quote-unquote more functional ability, and some can't. But even people who are considered normal can be so normal that they're generic, and they are personalityless. They just keep up with the Joneses. They are mentally devoid of the ability to be individuals. And to me, that's a serious thing, because what do you die with when you get like that? Who are you, and what have you made for yourself besides to keep a home and a lawn? And I'm not knocking people that keep a nice home and a lawn, because that's certainly on my agenda, but it can be a defect in either way, and we don't call people who are functional syndrome. You know, it's not nice, and it's not correct, and it's not appropriate to name people things like that. We don't call it left syndrome if people are left-handed, or, you know, Brown syndrome if they have brown eyes. This is genetic, and unless they've had vaccines that have content of mercury or metals in there that have caused it, and that's really not even true Asperger's or autism. That's created. It's imposed and on a normal person, quote unquote normal. My whole thing is I want to promote Asperger's as being normal, and as being as valid and as valuable and as functional as anything else. So this is just one video that I want to upload. The subjects that Asperger's can get into are very vast, and I just was hoping that someone out there who can maybe either recognize some of the traits that they have. I'll be uploading a video that talks about the traits, but maybe this will get people's curiosity piqued, and they may be listening to my videos a little bit better, a little more often, find themselves in there somewhere, and even quote-unquote typical people have similar Asperger traits, and yet Asperger traits have typical traits because we borrow from each other, we learn and adapt, and we do definitely borrow traits to become more functional. Everybody wants to be functional, everybody wants to be productive, and anyway, so I will be uploading videos on the traits and the personality aspects, as well as functional and dysfunctional. But I'm thanking you guys for listening to me. This is kind of awkward because I've never put anything up with myself other than a photo, and anyway, I will upload more, and I appreciate you guys listening. Tell me what you think of this. If you have opinions or comments, they're very welcome. So I will talk to you guys again, and that's it. Bye for now.